Welcome back, everybody, to Not Gospel. Cliff Williams and the amazing Joel Jackson here with you again.
Hello.
Let's talk about your week.
My week.
Your week.
What a crazy week.
All right.
What a crazy week. Man.
Don't make me nervous now. If it's a crazy week for you versus a typical week for you, that's super crazy.
Oh, it's a crazy week. Like, in a crazy week, I always, it always involves drama, dumb stuff that I shouldn't have to deal with. Doesn't involve me. That comes into my world that I have to deal with. So, this current situation with someone that's awesome, longtime friend, longtime whatever, business partner, and we're trying to renegotiate a not so great deal for me. This person thinks it's amazing. It's not for me. So we had an explosive conversation, not on my part. I was talking like this. The other person was shouting and screaming. And
so
what I do in that situation when someone's shouting is I'm like, look, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do this regardless of the yelling. Thank you. That's exactly what it is.
So how tell everybody how awesome it is to go into business with good friends.
No, well, me and this person will be fine. He's a cool dude. Like,
It
I'm
makes
not gonna
everything
name it, but
awkward, though, doesn't it? Like, I mean,
I've known this person for 10 years, so it's almost like a family thing where like if like you would yell about something and then the next, like he saw me the next day, we still don't have an agreement and I'm probably out, which is fine because I'm just outgrowing the situation because what's happening is I'm so busy, I can't give this person what they ask for, and I've been there for 4 months and have hardly made any money.
Okay.
And when I said that, they were just like, what are you talking about? This deal is great for you, but here are the numbers. No, this deal is great for you, but here are the numbers.
All right.
Great,
so,
dude.
well, being in a band though is that exact same scenario. You know, we started in a band as best friends years and years ago,
Yeah.
and now I'm still in business with two of those same guys for going on 18 years. So we have crossed a few. What have you not come to blows, but we've come very close to.
Yeah, dude.
We've had some disagreements in the van.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what really frustrates me about this situation, is you can have healthy conversations, and then someone can be really toxic and just instantly, as soon as the disagreement comes, explode.
Yeah.
And this happens every 6 months in this situation. I've been there for about 5 years. Our deal changed 4 months ago, and it's not good for me because this person may or may not have used some situation to their advantage. But the benefit of the doubt is this person is a very good person, great person, but it does not work for me anymore. And but I've had those things where everybody stays calm and we're like, okay, like it's intense.
Let's work it out.
But let's work it out.
Yeah.
This person has to scream and explode every time. It's just, ugh.
Get out the scissors.
We'll still go to Thanksgiving, but dude.
Oh man! So you and Mikey wrote today. Did you get a good song?
Yeah, man. Mikey came in with this. It's so interesting, and it's been such a learning experience recording and working with him because, like, he is just. I'm used to like local stuff and local people coming in, and yeah, man, I've done my stuff, and I've done a ton of like local stuff, but I have not gone to that next level of like Mikey and you guys have been in the industry. So he just like. I, one, have to trust him that he's making the right move.
Yeah.
Two, he's making decisions that are like so far above where I'm at, and I'm just like, how are you doing that? Like
he has great instincts.
The instincts are phenomenal, and so he came in with this amazing song, and it was like, and we finished it out, and dude, it's just like it's right in the vein of where I want to be with like we're trying to go in maybe this worship direction.
Mm.
And it was that to a T. And man, I think he said he thought it was a single, but we've said that every week for each song. So that's good.
Well, I mean, it's good that you guys enjoy working together so much and it's going so well. I mean, when you and I work together, it feels very similar. Like I
thought you were about to make a joke. You're like, I mean, when you and I,
when you and I work together, I just want to pull my hair out. Gosh. I can't handle it. I have to redo everything you do. No. If you can't separate business from the personal, then you're in trouble. Everybody, I
Right.
mean, you have to. And that was something we learned early on in the band is like, we're going to disagree
Yeah.
about some business stuff. Sometimes you're going to be the odd man out on the vote. It's just the way it is, you know.
Right.
And you have to be able to, in certain situations, you have to literally be able to occupy the same space with that person for the next 12 hours in a van or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and get along. And so.
Do you have any, like, I mean, you don't have to go into detail, but like stories that you would want to, or no? Yeah.
When we were doing the big church night out tour,
Yeah.
the second time we did that, the first tour we did with the Newsboys was us, Family Force 5, and the Newsboys.
That's crazy.
And we did this years ago, and we did kind of a more of a rock show. We still had our rock songs. We were doing Alive in You and something, and
yeah.
And I'm not so sure that the Newsboys and their audience was keen on it. You know, I don't know that they were big fans of. This is not a rock show. This is a pop rock or a Christian pop crowd. You know,
Right.
It's a CCM crowd.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were a little bit younger, and we still wanted to rock. It's like, this is our sound. This is what we want to do. And in between that tour and the fall tour with them, we wrote some new songs. They were a little bit softer and poppier, and the decisions were coming down the pipeline to possibly change our set, to make our set much more in keeping, use the portions of our set and our songs that were much more like their stuff.
Yeah.
And I was not on board, man. I was
Okay.
like, this is a big mistake.
Okay.
This song is our radio single. Like, at the time, it's like, you cannot leave it out and stuff like that. And like, I was very much against it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, it's business. If I'm the odd man out, I will suck it up and just do it. And I was. They were like, well, we feel like this needs to be the direction.
Yeah.
This needs to be what we need to do. And I said, okay, I couldn't disagree more strongly, but I will play ball. And
I will play ball,
I
Ryan
will play
Johnson.
ball.
I'll do this Luke Skywalker shit for the Last Jedi.
Absolutely. Whatever you want. No. And I did. And it come to find out, I was completely wrong. We did way better on that tour than we did in the first one. The people responded way, way better. We got a better rapport with the Newsboys and that band because we were willing to make adjustments to fit for their dynamic. And it was all around the much better decision. I was way wrong.
Yeah.
But the guys didn't be like, see, told you so. You know what I'm saying? There was none of that. It was just, I cast my vote. I spoke my piece. They disagreed. We moved on, and we're still best buds.
See, that to me is like a business disagreement and a way to handle stuff. I don't know how else to say, like, hey, I've done $10,000 of video this month and haven't charged anything, and I've made $500 from this thing. I don't know how you look at that math and you still have an ego about it and be like, no, this deal is good for you.
Well,
Here it comes.
the way you do that is by adopting that new everything is relative math that's out there now. The fact that,
It's his truth.
2 + 2 can be 5.
It can be fun.
Like, if you look at it, I don't know, in a funhouse mirror, YouTube is our only outlet at the moment, because I'm a dad in a band, busy. I haven't taken the chance to do a Patreon. I'm still trying to contact these host platforms to figure out the deal with making it a podcast, just the audio.
Yeah.
And so YouTube's my only platform, our only platform, and I've been excited about learning all the stuff to make the content fun and relevant.
Yeah.
Our second video got taken down within 24 hours. Supposedly broke their guidelines. If you saw the second video, if you watched Not Gospel episode 2, the one you're watching now, there's multiple edits in there that are intentionally edited that way. It'll say to meet YouTube's guidelines. It's deliberate because we didn't break their guidelines. I read their guidelines about various things. A certain virus that has taken the world by storm that we will not mention, but there are 2 vowels in its name and there are 3 consonants, and it sounds a lot like but we can't. I'm not going to say it. So we apparently broke their guidelines on it, which we did not. I'm going to go ahead and say we did not. I looked at their guidelines. We made no false claims, no misinformation. But they took down the video. So I had to re-edit and post it right back up. So there's that. I didn't really think, like, with just the 18 subscribers that we have, which thank you so much. If you subscribe, you're awesome. You're the greatest. Comment, let us know who you are. I will answer every one of them because I have no excuse. There's only 18 of you. So that happened, which caused more editing. You know, it takes a while to edit these videos.
Yeah,
so I had to have another day of editing. But we got that done.
It's interesting because the guidelines, like I said, like it goes back to, like, I don't know how people can argue that, but the big tech is controlled by the left.
Yeah.
So they lean towards a more left narrative, and there's a lot of videos where people are saying outrageous, crazy things, like potentially inciting violence.
Yeah.
But if it's like towards, let's say, we're going to go pushes that narrative, it's fine.
If it meets the right criteria for the narrative, then
of the left,
then it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
But to get on the big stage, to talk about the big stuff, I did bring my little handy dandy journal. You know,
such a nice journal.
It is.
What's that on the front? Is that an owl?
It's a wise old owl.
A wise owl.
It's a sage. There you go.
Awesome.
Is it in the frame?
I gotta make sure. Yeah, we're doing good.
All right, we're in the frame. So I printed out some stuff. Obviously, the biggest thing on everybody's brain right now is the Derek Chauvin trial.
Yeah, and a quick recap, maybe.
Yes. So the quick recap on the trial,
or even the situation.
And the situation. If you hadn't seen the footage, it was a year and a half ago. Wasn't 2019 when this happened? No,
this
or 2020.
happened because remember COVID hit and that was nuts. And then this video in early summer.
It was roughly a year ago.
Yeah,
roughly a year ago. Yes. Derek Chauvin
police.
We can say murdered now because he was.
Yeah.
He murdered George Floyd.
Yeah.
And flat out. First off, I'm going to say this in the video. We will at no point in this video condone any type of hate speech at all, or condone any type of violence and violent acts on anyone for any reason at all. This will not happen in this video.
Well, and that's why, like, because I know this is like more of a right podcast, but I have kind of an interesting perspective on this whole thing because, like, what happened was just... I remember seeing it and being like, man, that is so terrible.
Without a doubt, the video of his death and his murder, George Floyd's murder, it's still just as graphic and still just as disturbing. The guy keeps his knee on the guy's neck for 4 minutes after he's unresponsive.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers how that would happen. So without a doubt,
well, it's the
he killed him.
It's the one time on Facebook where I've seen people in 2020, the one time where everybody was unified on that video. I remember seeing comments from like these crazy right people that were like, wow, this is terrible. And then all of their trolls on the left were like, oh, we agree on something. Same thing with the crazy on the left and their trolls with the right. It's the one time I've seen people. Now, not right now.
You know, the only other time I've seen them like that? January 6, 2021.
Hold on. I'm an idiot.
The Capitol riots.
Oh.
That's when everybody across the boards was forced is the wrong word. Everybody, that's when, January 6th, 2021, the Capitol protests / riots was the other time. The would-be Trump supporter rioting on the Capitol, that's the only other time when everybody was unanimously, we're against it 100%, you know, like, worst thing that ever happened, all this jazz.
Oh, no, I'm not doing it.
But anyways, to get back to the story at hand, again, we will not condone acts of violence or hate speech of any kind, and there will be no such hate speech on this film. Now, there may be violence if Joel gets out of hand.
Violence, just like video game violence.
All right, so in the trial, he was found guilty on all charges. Derek Chauvin was, and nobody doubted that he was going to be found a guilty verdict. He was going to be found guilty of killing George Floyd. The footage is just obvious.
Ben Shapiro, who I listen to a lot, said it was he's been saying leading up to this, it's manslaughter is very likely. First degree murder is going to be very hard. Second degree murder is going to be very hard. Third degree murder is likely as well.
Yeah.
But
So he got second degree murder.
Yeah.
The maximum sentence is 40 years.
yeah,
The trial lasted for nearly 2 weeks. This trial, it was the highest profile trial in years. The trial lasted for 2 weeks. The jury reached a verdict in less than 12 hours.
yeah.
So the jury reaches this crazy verdict so fast. And when they came back having reached the verdict, everybody was like, okay, they either acquitted him or they found him guilty on all charges.
Yeah.
There's no way they're a hung jury in 12 hours. So they come back, they find him guilty, murder too.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. During this time, during the trial, there's been outrage, there's been rioting, there's been threats of violence.
Who's Maxine? What you were gonna?
Okay, so California Congresswoman, she's
Yeah.
Democrat, Maxine Waters, in the middle of an angry mob, and she's telling journalists, this is what she says: "We are looking for a guilty verdict." Now, this was like a day or two prior to the verdict being announced.
Yeah.
"We are looking for a guilty verdict. If nothing does not happen," which she probably missed her words. "If nothing does not happen, then we know that we've got to not only stay in the street, but we've got to fight for justice." And then she goes on to say, "We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business." Now, she says this. She says, we've got to get more confrontational.
This is where I get mad. This is where I get mad.
And protesters, I saw footage, protesters in Minneapolis about the trial at this time were shouting and chanting, "Burn it down, burn it down, burn it down." I don't know what they were planning on burning down, but what the last year showed us was that they will burn things down. Because this is after protesters and rioters, they've been burning down buildings, destroying property, and taking lives for over a year. This has been happening. A year ago, May 30th, this is a story that I wanted to talk about on this. On May 30th of 2020, rioters and protesters in Richmond, Virginia set an occupied home on fire. They set it on fire and blocked firefighters from stopping the fire. They blocked them from doing their job to stop the fire.
Have you seen the movie Gangs of New York?
Yeah. Yeah, this is exactly it's bully tactics. So the Richmond, Virginia police chief, this is what he said: "This is not the only occupied building that has been set on fire set fire to over the last 2 days. They prohibited us from getting on scene. We had to force our way to make a clear path for the fire department. Protesters intercepted that fire apparatus several blocks away. Apparently there was like a fire hydrant or fire apparatus. They intercepted it with vehicles and blocked the fire department's access to the structure. Inside the home that was on fire was a child." So the protesters were blocking the firefighters from doing their job to... This building's on fire. And the protesters set the fire. They eventually were able to help the people in the way, but in the building. But if the rioters had their way, they just let the building burn.
I haven't heard about this, and you know why?
Why?
Because it doesn't fit the narrative.
This
is dangerous.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit the
And
narrative.
for the record, just so we don't get banned, everything I said you can look up on YouTube videos and you can find
they
them.
don't care about facts.
You can
YouTube
find
doesn't
them.
care about facts.
YouTube has these videos on their channel, so I should not get banned for re-quoting other videos.
I was in, I don't know if maybe you saw my video. So the Breonna Taylor case happened in Louisville, Kentucky. I live 10 miles from Louisville, Kentucky. The first night of the riots, I went down with my camera. Dude, it was a war zone. I promise you, if you are on the left, like a reasonable, sensible left person, and you go down there, you go down to one of these things, you probably would have voted for Trump. And the reason I say if you're on the left, you'd probably vote for Trump because people like Maxine Waters, Kamala Harris, they are like, no, this needs to keep happening.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is okay. So going back to January 6th, Trump was impeached, and basically the basis of the impeachment,
the Capitol riots.
Yeah, the basis of the impeachment was he said we're going to have to fight like hell. He incited a riot, and he said to march down to the Capitol and peacefully and patriotically make your voice heard. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how does Maxine Waters? I challenge anyone on the left. Explain to me in a logical way how Maxine Waters still has her job when she is telling rioters who are chanting burn it down," and are setting buildings on fire and are destroying property. when she's telling them we got to get more confrontational, we got to stay in the streets if we don't get a guilty verdict. How is she not inciting violence? How is she not inciting violence? How does she still have a job? How is she not getting taken out of office? How is she not possibly facing charges for inciting violence, inciting rioting? How?
If the media publicize that in a certain way, because I do videos all the time, I know how to make a video have a certain tone. The media knows that too. They're geniuses at it. If they went a certain way about it, people on the left would be disgusted, but they're like, no, this is...
I would love in the comments, I would love anybody, and I'll listen. This is our opinion. Again, it's my opinion. You can do what you want with it, but I would love anybody in the comments to write there. I challenge you to tell me why she should not be charged for inciting violence, inciting a riot, why she shouldn't be charged. She's telling rioters who are chanting "burn it down," telling them to get more confrontational. And the BLM riots and protests have already cost lives. They caused loss of life. They caused damage to property. Yep. Looting and rioting. The looting and rioting is not a protest. It's not peaceful protest. It's not. It's illegal. I'm not trying to get all crazy on this.
Maxine Waters and Kamala Harris, because in a way, definitely Kamala, they're talking about mainly face value, the protests.
Right.
But what they really know is going to happen is stuff's going to burn down.
Right, but if you're saying but the thing is, if you're not blind and you know that they are rioting and they're looting and they're burning down buildings, then you need to be careful and say, if you're going to impeach Trump for saying, fight like hell and march down there peacefully and patriotically,
just be consistent.
Then you need to say, don't riot, don't damage property, don't burn buildings with people in them or buildings period, and don't hit people with bottles. And they said there's countless injuries during these things.
Dude, it was nuts.
Yeah.
The only reason that I didn't get attacked is because with my long hair and my tank top and my all black tank top, not tank talk. Sounds like TikTok.
Tank top.
My tank top and my all black hair, they were like, oh, this dude lives with his mom. He's definitely on the left. I promise you.
Well, and likewise, explain to me how this guy, you have a better shot at pleading LeBron James's case than you do Maxine Waters, in my opinion. But the same day as the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial came to a close, the same day as that verdict, 16-year-old Ma'Khia, I want to say her name correctly. I think it's Ma'Khia. 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant, a black American girl, was shot and killed by a police officer. When this happened, LeBron James, with almost 50 million followers on Twitter, that's a huge...
With great power.
Yeah, that's a huge influence right there. And the same day as the verdict for Derek Chauvin, he posts a picture on his Twitter of the police officer who killed Ma'Khia Bryant.
Yeah.
And in the picture, he posted, "You're next," with an hourglass emoji. #accountability.
Do we know why he killed her? Yeah.
Come to find out, 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant was about to stab another black child to death. She had a knife. The video shows her clearly with a knife about to stab the other child. This officer saved this girl's life. In any other situation, in any other sane situation, we would be applauding an officer for saving somebody's life. But instead,
you have 50 million followers. You need to think before you post. Give it 24 hours. Go punch a wall. I've done that before. I've been so angry for a situation. I got a punching bag. And I do. And I go run and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that on Facebook. Got it.
So here's the deal. When I say this, I'm not taking anything away from LeBron James as a basketball player. One of the greatest players to play the game.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't need to weigh in on this kind of stuff. He's probably not, in my opinion, not the brightest bulb in the pack.
Here's my situation with that. I think celebrities and whoever, you can weigh in, but you have got to learn the facts first. You have to research,
learn the facts,
and then make a statement, man.
And he deleted the tweet. And the thing is, you talk about accountability. His big thing was #accountability. Where's the accountability on him? He's basically put this officer on blast. It's as close to doxing as you can for somebody without doxing them.
Yeah.
And
But he'll be fine because he's on the
all
left.
he did was delete the tweet, and he gets to save face. He's like, the reason he deleted the tweet is because it was being used to generate more hate. And it's like, dude, you deleted the tweet because it's a dumb tweet. Criminality does not have a race. Okay, criminality does not have a race.
Yeah.
There are, and the proof of that is if you look at the Derek Chauvin and George Floyd case. Here's what I don't like. Both of these guys, if you look at their record and their history, Derek Chauvin was a scummy dude. He had a record of behavioral infractions. Okay, like he had this disciplinary record in the police force, just a long laundry list. So they were kind of, I guess at that point, he should have been fired before this incident ever occurred, in my opinion. And then the same thing with George Floyd. George Floyd had a criminal record.
Right.
He had a drug problem, according to reports. He was in the process of using counterfeit money at the time when the cops were called. He was not a model citizen. I'm not making them the same. What I'm saying is both of them were problematic individuals. Yeah. Clearly. Both of them, in my opinion, were a little scummy. Neither one of them deserve a memorial. That's reality. I think when I see George Floyd...
You mean like memorial service? You mean like a giant plaque?
Yes, a giant plaque and a golden Ark of the Covenant type casket and multiple memorial services. It's like you wouldn't have a memorial for either one of them, in my opinion. Yeah. Because, hey, give justice. And I disagree emphatically with Barack Obama, who says this isn't justice. It's like, yeah, that's what the law is for. The law is there to exact justice. You commit a crime, you pay the sentence, you do the time, whatever it is. And it is justice. Yeah. If the rest of this guy's life is ruined because of him taking this other person's life, that's, according to our law, is justice.
It's justice.
So I mean, but one of them getting a giant memorials and having a memorial service and all this kind of stuff, it's like, we don't do that much for returning vets.
I think the first thing you do to fix this situation, and it's not going to happen easy because it's very hard, is you got to put the family back together, and that's going to take several generations.
The multitude of problems that are out there in real life, white supremacists, which there may actually be 1,000 in the entire United States, if that, white supremacist, actual white supremacist. The narrative I disagree with is the suggestion that white supremacy is one of the biggest challenges facing black people right now.
I've heard that. Well, I've heard facing America.
Facing America.
I've heard that from people that I know, and they like believe it, and that's where I'm like, dude, like, and here's the belief is that you and I, what they think and what subconsciously they think is if white supremacy rose up, you and I would be like, oh, this is good. Everyone hates it. We would be absolutely
Again, this is not hate speech, but I hate white supremacy. Because here's the deal. I teach my kids that I am a fundamental Christian, kind of. I'm not sure what fundamental means. But anyways, I'm a Christian. And I teach my kids that we're all created in the image of God, regardless of what we look like, regardless of our color, our man or woman, whatever. We're all made in the image of God, so therefore we're all special and unique, and we're His prized creation. That's what I teach my kids. I don't like white supremacy. I wouldn't like black supremacy. I wouldn't like any of that. I'll just be real, because it doesn't make any sense. And most people feel the same way.
I don't like Disney Star Wars supremacy either. It's happening right now. It's awful.
Man. You know what supremacy I don't like? I don't like that there are no guy superheroes in any Disney movies at all.
My whole life growing up, I would tell parents, friends, whatever, things I had, like depression. I'm dealing with this. And they would say, no, you're not. God is in control. Yeah. God is doing everything. We don't believe you. And so it's almost like I have this thought when people say that they're experiencing something, I'm like, okay.
No one can take that away from you. In the same way, no one can tell you you're not experiencing that. No one can also tell you you are experiencing something that you aren't.
Right.
So no one can tell me I'm experiencing the benefits of white privilege.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. If you are experiencing racism,
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that. I still ask for, tell me about it. Tell me the specific instances. Tell me the racists that you have encountered. Let's deal with something we can create a solution for.
Yeah.
If you just say racism's there and there's nothing you can do about it, that's a doomsday prophecy. It's self-fulfilling, and I can't handle that. It makes no sense.
Right.
But if you say, oh, you're experiencing racism, okay, let's talk about it, itemize it down. When do these things happen? It'd be no difference if you're trying to solve any kind of criminal case. In the same way, don't look at me and say, I'm experiencing this, and I say, okay, you are experiencing it, and then say, and you are experiencing the benefit. No, I'm not. If I'm not experiencing white privilege, you don't get to tell me I am. That's a backwards, biased type of logic that does not, it's illogical. It makes no sense. It confounds real logic.
Well, and it's almost like every time I see that on Facebook, because I'm friends with a lot of people on Facebook.
Yeah.
I look at my own life when I hear that word and I'm like, okay, man, my life has been pretty difficult. And I understand maybe it's not because of like my skin color, but like also my life has been really hard. So what you're saying with my white privilege is I should be doing much better. Like, I try really hard at things.
Yeah.
I don't know what this white privilege is supposed to do for me, but it didn't help my family.
Dude.
It didn't help anything. It didn't help any of the brokenness.
From the time I was 14 on, I found out in my high school how many days I could physically miss and be absent and not lose a letter grade. I found that out. I asked them, how many days can I be absent and not lose a letter grade? They'd tell me, and then I would take every single one of those days out to go work with my father. I would work and make my own money to buy my own clothes, do my own thing. If I got sick, guess what? I had no more days. I'd have to go to school. Sick, flu, whatever it was. Fortunately, I didn't get sick that often.
Yeah.
Pretty good immune system. I don't take antibiotics, and I don't get flu shots, by the way, just so everybody knows. But yeah, I would miss as many days as I possibly could every year to make as much money as I could because I had to work hard to do it.
Yeah.
So, in other news, but related, I have here a letter, excerpts from a letter. His father from New York. If you don't know Brearley is a private all-girls school in Manhattan. It's $54,000 a year, and families have to take an anti-racism pledge to be considered for admission to the school. Anti-racism pledge. And recently, a father pulled his daughter, who had been in this school since kindergarten. He pulled his daughter out of Brearley, and he sent this letter. He sent this letter to the 600-ish or so families that are represented in the school. I'm gonna keep all of their information anonymous, but here's the letter. It was sent on April 13th, 2021. It's, dear fellow Brearley parents. Our family recently made the decision to not re-enroll our daughter at Brearley. She has been at Brearley for 7 years. In short, we no longer believe that Brearley's admission and board of trustees have any of our children's best interests at heart. Moreover, we no longer have confidence that our daughter will receive the quality of education necessary to further her development into a critically thinking, responsible, enlightened, and civic-minded adult. It cannot be stated strongly enough that Brearley's obsession with race must stop. It should be abundantly clear to any thinking parent that Brearley has completely lost its way. The administration and the board of trustees have displayed a cowardly and appalling lack of leadership by appeasing an anti-intellectual mob and allowing the school to be captured by that same mob. What follows are my own personal views on Brearley's anti-racism initiatives. And these are his objections and the reasons why he's pulling his child from Brearley and encouraging other parents to strongly think about it. I object to the view that I should be judged by the color of my skin. I cannot tolerate a school that not only judges my daughter by the color of her skin, but encourages and instructs her to prejudge others by theirs. By viewing every element of education, every aspect of history, and every facet of society through the lens of skin color and race, we are desecrating the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and utterly violating the movement for which such civil rights leaders believed, fought, and died for. Which I agree, dude, I agree with all this. The anti-racism stuff. The Coca-Cola anti-racism, be less white. I object to the charge of systemic racism in this country. and at our school. Systemic racism, properly understood, is segregated schools and separate lunch counters. It is the interning of Japanese and the exterminating of Jews. Systemic racism is unequivocally not a small number of isolated incidences over a period of decades. I object to the idea that blacks are unable to succeed in this country without aid from government or from whites. Brearley, by adopting critical race theory, is advocating the abhorrent viewpoint that blacks should forever be regarded as helpless victims and are incapable of success regardless of their skills, talents, or hard work. And I could not agree with this dude anymore. It's like you are enabling victimhood by telling somebody just because of your color you cannot achieve. That is like the absolute definition of racism. It drives me insane. But going on, I object to mandatory anti-racism training for parents. These sessions in both their content and delivery are so sophomoric and simplistic that I would be embarrassed if they were taught to Brearley kindergartners. They are an insult to parents and unbecoming of any educational institution. I object to Brearley's advocacy for groups and movements such as Black Lives Matter, a Marxist, anti-family, heterophobic, anti-Asian, and anti-Semitic organization that neither speaks for the majority of the black community in this country, nor in any way, shape, or form represents their best interests.
Freaking men.
Dude.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. I agree with that, dude.
As much as I do sympathize, and maybe I've expressed a little bit with people that experience that statement.
Dude, show me a hospital built by BLM. BLM takes in tons of donations every year, and you can see where these donations go.
That person's house.
I've been on their website.
Did you see the person in charge?
DNC.
Did you see the person in charge? She's like bought herself like 3 or 4 houses.
Show me the scholarship fund for minority children that's sponsored by BLM. Show me the teachers the urban teachers retirement fund that's created by BLM.
I've said this from the start, and I said this a year ago. BLM has a massive PR problem that they need to fix.
I object to the gutting of the history, civics, and classical literature curriculums. I could not agree more with that. While we're studying about how everything in human history or in American history is racist, other countries are learning classical literature. They're studying math and all of these things that matter. We're debating whether or not math is racist.
We're creating the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
So dumb.
People are creating art, and America is creating the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
I object to the gutting of the history, civics, and classical literature curriculums. I object to the censorship of books that have been taught for generations because they contain dated language, potentially offensive to the thin-skinned and hypersensitive. I couldn't agree with that more. We got censored this week.
Stop dyeing your hair blue and move out of your mom's house. I'm kidding. I know awesome people with their hair.
I told you.
But that is a general statement.
I had to put some temporary dye in my son's hair once for a blue day at school.
But he does live with his mom, so
yes, he does.
Okay.
It's fair. We have today in our country, from both political parties and at all levels of government, the most unwise. This is another statement I 100% affirm this. I agree with it on both sides of the aisle, okay? We have today in our country, from both political parties and at all levels of government, the most unwise and unvirtuous leaders in our nation's history. Schools like Brearley are supposed to be the training grounds for these leaders. Our nation will not survive a generation of leadership even more poorly educated than we have now. Nor will we survive a generation of students taught to hate its own country and despise its history. I object that Brearley is trying to usurp the role of parents in teaching morality and bullying parents to adopt that false morality at home.
And I guarantee you the administration in charge of this, dude, all those people are crazy and their kids are usually crazy too.
You're probably not wrong. This is the last page. Over the past several months, I have personally spoken to many Brearley parents as well as parents of children at peer institutions. It is abundantly clear that the majority of parents believe that Brearley's anti-racism policies are misguided, divisive, counterproductive, and cancerous. Many believe, as I do, that these policies will ultimately destroy what was until recently a wonderful educational institution. But as I am sure will come as no surprise to you, given the insidious cancel culture that has of late permeated our society, most parents are too fearful to speak up. But speak up you must. There is strength in numbers, and I assure you the numbers are there. Contact the administration and the Board of Trustees and demand an end to the destructive and anti-intellectual claptrap known as anti-racism. And if changes are not forthcoming, then demand new leadership. For the sake of our community, our city, our country, and most of all, our children, silence is no longer an option.
Boom.
Boom. Roasted.
That is...
You cannot fight racism with more racism. And the reality is, racism does not have a race. Racism is the unequal treatment, the special treatment, favorable or unfavorable, of any person or any persons or any group of people based strictly on their race or their ethnicity. If you're treating people differently because of their ethnicity, that's racism. That's racial prejudice. If I'm being treated differently anywhere because I'm white, like he's saying, if he's being told to treat people differently, or his daughter's being told to treat kids differently because they're black or they're white, they're encouraging and instituting racism. That's not what Martin Luther King wanted. He said you're supposed to be treated by your character, by what you do, what you say. Word and deed is you're supposed to treat people based on their word and deed.
Dude, this is why I jumped back into the church stuff and the ministry stuff, because Jesus to me is a unifier.
Yeah.
And the religion, which it absolutely is a religion of the left and the right, is insane, chaotic division. And you cannot hold your ground on that, because you're going to always fight people. And I'm in this church, and it's in New Albany, Indiana. And it's like this one time where everybody gets together and they're like, let's try to be good.
Yeah.
Name the political organization that gets together and doesn't call everyone an idiot every 5 seconds. You can't.
Dude.
Jesus, that's it, man. Jesus.
You're not wrong. You cannot say that your goal is to unify everybody, your goal is to bring everybody together, and then focus on painting one type of people as perpetrators of evil and another type of people as victims.
Yep.
You can't do that. You're just creating a bigger and deeper gash, a bigger and deeper wound.
I hate racism. I hate unequal treatment, and I hate Donald Trump, and I hope he do. What? What?
The whole Jesus thing is grace and truth. And you gotta. There has to be something about your grace. Jesus even calls you to love your enemies, love those who would despitefully use you. Yeah. So there has to be something about your grace, your gracious treatment of other people, just for the sake of it, that makes them want to hear your truth. So
take that.
Anyways, lots of stuff to talk about, lots of stuff to digest.
What's next week?
What's next week? Next week is the Quran. So next week is the Quran. Diving into that. So get ready, because it's going to be a big one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Do the liking, do the commenting, do the subscribing, hit the notification bell thingy.
Move out of your mom's basement.
Better yourself in whatever way humanly possible.
Let your natural hair grow. I'm kidding.
And keep being awesome, because that's how God made you.